I'm Patty Ann Brown, and you are in the Strategy Room. A new report finds 44 states continue to partially or fully waive work requirements for Americans on food stamps. It's a move that has lawmakers divided. Typically, in order to qualify for federal food stamps known as SNAP, able-bodied adults with no dependents have to find work within 3 months of receiving benefits. But a state can waive those requirements in a tough job market. So many states have been doing that starting in 2009. But unemployment has been cut in half since then, and some critics say it's time for states to stop renewing the waivers. So here now with reaction, Basil Smikle Jr., Executive Director of the New York State Democratic Party, and Liz Peek, columnist with the Fiscal Times. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
So a group critical of the waivers says of the explosion, it's a quote here, the explosion of enrollment without requiring work is a recipe for long-term dependency and is hurting the country's economic recovery. That is from the Foundation for Government Accountability. Basil?
Well, I don't think it's a recipe for long-term dependency on food stamps. If you remember, this went back to sort of Bill Clinton in 1996's reform, Democrat reform of welfare as we know it, if you will. And I do think that there's a strong rationale for the waiver of the requirement in a bad job market. I'm not so sure right now that it's even time to bring that requirement back yet. But I do see it happening at some point down the road. The issue, I think, with many of these jobs is that they seem to penalize individuals for being on public assistance more than actually give them skills to be able to go out and get jobs outside of public assistance. So I think that's the core issue. And if states haven't figured that nuance out, then I think that's where the problem lies.
Well, Liz, to Basil's point, one of the supporters of the waivers says one-size-fits-all cutoffs make it more difficult for people to get and keep work. That's the New York Coalition Against Hunger.
Well, there should be no law in the land that discourages people from getting a job. And there are millions of them. There are housing issues, there are food stamps, etc. The issue with food stamps is we have 46 million Americans receiving food stamps. It's been 4 years straight of that kind of number receiving this particular kind of payment. And the reality is we either have unemployment down to 5.3%, folks, or we don't, right? Is that a baloney number? If it's a baloney number, fine, then let's continue these waivers. But if actually that's the number we're looking at, that's a very low level of unemployment. And there really is no rationale under that sort of scenario for offering people this benefit. Look, this all comes back to what Arthur Brooks talks about. If indeed studies have shown that at 80 to 90%, if you're receiving 80 to 90% of what you would earn in a minimum wage job via benefits, you're not going to be out there hustling for a job. And that is the truth. So I think that this is always on a humanitarian basis, extremely difficult choice to make. But I think that as we've seen with unemployment benefits, the minute those were cut back, guess what? People went and found jobs. So I think this is an analogous situation, and for people without dependents, I don't think this is appropriate.
All right. Well, governors are the ones who decide whether or not to renew these waivers. And in Kansas, Governor Sam Brownback let the waivers expire 2 years ago. In his state, able-bodied adults with no dependents who want to keep their benefits are required to work at least 20 hours a week or be enrolled in a government-approved training program. He says it's working. Basil?
No, I think with Liz's point earlier, I do believe that unemployment has gone down. I actually believe that number. But what I think we can all agree on is that wages have stagnated. And going back to the Brownback point, if you're putting folks into a job program to keep these food stamps, and those training programs don't actually lead to jobs with wages that are sustainable for those families in the long term, then I think the bigger issue is we'll give you the public assistance, but right now we just don't have the opportunity to give you a job that can actually get you off your feet and get you out of this program. And I think the fact is that it's temporary, and I don't think compared to certain talking points that it's something that creates a dependency. It is temporary, and I think as we start to see an increase in waves, then I think those job training programs will come back to the table.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Both of you, Basil, Liz, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And for more on this developing story, go to foxnews.com. I'm Patty Ann Brown. Thanks for watching.